welcome to an end of the year edition of A Stab in the Dark, where we're going to rank our top 5 horror movies of this year. Now, we are recording a little bit early at the end of the year, so films that have been released this year, such as, say, Nosferatu, won't be in this list because, like Spotify Warped, we some point have to make a deadline. And so middle of
So
November,
we don't get the Christmas songs and the
exactly.
Wrapped.
Yeah. So middle of November is where we are right now. And so you won't see some of these ones that are a bit later on. But please do comment and let us know if you've put one of those new ones in your list. It'd be really interesting to hear that. And remember to like and subscribe as well as that. And of course, I'm joined today, as always, by Dave and Mike.
Hi.
And I'm Joe. So let's get to it. And before we get to our top 5s, we're going to do our most disappointing and our pick for worst. Now, of course, these are all opinions. There is nothing concrete in here other than that. But what is life without opinion? So we're going to go worst. So, Dave, in your opinion, and what you've seen this year, what is the worst horror movie of 2024?
For me, the worst horror film of 2024 that I've seen is a film called Stream. Came out a couple of years ago.
I've seen
a couple of years ago. In 2024.
You know what this podcast is, right? Yeah. This episode.
Is it supposed to be this year?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to change my whole list.
Nosferatu 1922.
So that's... I was interested in it because it was produced by Damien Leone. I think he did the special effects on it. David Howard Thornton's in it. As well as, in fact, the cast was
stacked. It's got Tony Todd
and
what's his name from Reanimator and
Tony Todd? Yeah.
No.
Well, Tony Todd is in it, but also the guy from Reanimator. What's his name? The main guy? I can't remember. He's awesome.
Herbert West.
Herbert West.
Tony Todd died. Am I thinking right?
Yeah,
Tony
he died.
Oh, okay. Well,
and what's the name from Halloween 4, the main girl?
Danielle Harris.
Yeah, she's in it too.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Oh, Danielle Harris is good.
And the premise is cool as well. So it's like a bunch of people basically locked inside a hotel. I
feel like it's got the Damien Leone syndrome, and I don't like it for that reason. It's so long for what it is.
Don't be like whispering that into a microphone.
It's actually got similar problems to Terrifier. I think.
It's nothing like Terrifier.
It's worse than Terrifier, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's also got
quite obviously
problems.
Dave is saying this, what he's saying right now.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of people locked in a hotel, and they've invited like 4 basically maniac killers locked in, and they've set up cameras all over the hotel, and they're streaming it live, and it's like a competition.
Yeah, we've seen that kind of
in that Halloween Resurrection
before.
somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying it's original, but it's fun. It was a fun idea. The cast was good.
Yeah, but they're wearing these cringe Purge style neon masks, and they're doing like funky dances and attempts at comedy that baffled me. So it's not good. It's not good.
Okay, well then let's move swiftly on. And Mike, what is your worst film of the year?
I've seen a lot of bad low budget ones, but I think it's unfair to put them as worst of the year. So I'm going to put The Strangers Part 1 as worst of the year because I thought,
how was it?
You
Not
haven't
good.
seen it. It's terrible. I mean, I don't really like the other Strangers movies. I think they're fine. But the new one is the most generic piece of garbage. Could have been released in 2007 and I would have not known the difference. And what makes it even worse than that it's uninspired, seen it before garbage, is that it's not even like a full story. It's part 1 of another like a story. 2-3 parts.
Yeah, wasn't it like originally basically ended up being like a 3.5-hour film or something, and they decided at the end to just cut it up.
So actually, basically, what means when you get to the end of that movie is nothing has really happened. You get a lot of quote unquote scares, and it's a jump scare central, and none of them are executed very well, and it's just generic nonsense. The cardboard cut out characters, not particularly well acted. It's fine. It's just boring. It's just I'd even rather watch The Strangers original one that I didn't really like either. So because it's basically that again.
Fun.
Just
Sounds
worse.
great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go. Just say I don't really watch as much horror as say yourself, Mike, or Dave. I don't necessarily watch as many, so I don't have as much to pick from here. However, I went with Salem's Lot in the end, just because
sensible pick.
I just thought it was a bit shit. To be quite honest with you, You know, I was in the cinema watching it going, I'm just really bored. And it had about 10 minutes at the beginning where I thought, oh, this could be pretty good. But it's just another one of those run-of-the-mill Stephen King adaptations that
I do really hate
do for the sake of
adaptations
it.
that just, it's like the Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, God, that was
And
bad. Yeah.
like the original Dune from David Lynch, which is the best example of it, but just basically cramming a huge book into... like a small movie, it just doesn't work. It's bad.
I like I said at the time when we reviewed Salem's Lot, I just thought it deserved something better, something like a Netflix series rather than, say, a film where it did try and cram that all in, where the characters make stupid decisions, or they actually make the right decision, but way too early to be logical or to be anything realistic.
They're professional guessers, those characters.
And that they wait. The biggest criticism of the whole thing is that they wait like until 30 minutes before nightfall to do anything before
have
the sun
highest
sets.
stakes. Yeah.
Pun intended.
Oh well, unintended, but fun. Yeah.
So there we go. That's one out the way.
That was the worst one I saw in the cinema.
Yeah. There you go. You see, that was a bad part of the year, but in a very good year for horror movies. So
For sure.
definitely those that are bad stand out even more. They stand out like a sore thumb because of how many good films they have been. So the next one is most disappointing. Could be a personal one. So this time, let's go with you, Mike, first of all.
This was a bit more difficult for me than worst, but I went with Hellhole, which is a movie that probably not a lot of people know. But it's from the same directors and creators and actors as Hellbender. They call themselves the Addams Family. I presume that is their real surname. And they basically just do they do almost everything themselves. And I love Hellbender. I think it's awesome. I think it's one of the best horror movies of recent years. And the new one this year, they went for like a The Thing kind of sci-fi horror angle. But man, does it suck. Man, does it suck so hard. It's like they forgot how to make a movie, really. It's got big TV movie energy, big low budget energy, even though this is their highest budget movie that they've made. It's unfortunate because Shudder, this is like one of the first when they've kind of made it, and Shudder's like given them a bigger budget for their movies. But it sucked. It was really bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I was sad because I was hyped. Yeah.
One I will watch when I'm really depressed and I just want a bucket of ice cream.
Or maybe if you watch it without seeing like their first film.
Potentially, maybe. Okay, so for me, most disappointing, I think it's another one of like sequel-y types. Like this might be a thing with things not living up to expectations, but for me, it's Maxine. And that's because
I can see that.
When we did our top 5 films of all time, I put Pearl in that. And I love that film. I've seen it more than almost any other horror film, other than perhaps the original Halloween. And it just didn't live up to expectations. It didn't show off any of the ability of the actors in it. I thought the whole priest thing was hammy. I just thought it really just didn't do a thing. And I saw it twice. And I saw it with you guys. I saw it with Siege, and it just didn't. It didn't do it for me, unfortunately. Like
I agree. I think it's a good movie, and I think it's almost better than a good movie up till a certain point in the movie, but after that point it's definitely disappointing.
I like Kevin Bacon.
If looked upon favourably compared to the previous two.
Kevin Bacon is good in it. Mia Goth is of course good, but she doesn't really get to do the same.
She doesn't get to like
experimental stuff that she did in Pearl.
Like as an actor, but also as a character, she's like quite muted compared to.
I think the whole movie is devoid of like a big identity, like the previous two have.
And I think you find that sometimes with a sequel that's had way too long to
gestate.
And too much money.
Exactly. X and Pearl back to back. And the fact they did it on such a low budget in such time constraints and stuff.
Lining in a bowl.
Yeah, because they were written together. They're such great companion pieces as well, whereas this was obviously written years long.
And sometimes those best movies are just done in a month or two. Like, look at Halloween, for example, for that. Like, that was done so quickly, and, the script was there, and they just kind of did it, and it was these bunch of kids that came together.
A lot of the time constraints are good, right?
Yeah.
You give a movie all the budget and time in the world, I would be less confident in it than otherwise. Yeah.
And yourself, Dave, most disappointing?
Yeah, well, Maxine was actually my most disappointing as well. Yeah. And a good film. It was a good film. And I haven't rewatched it, and I think I actually might like it more on a second watch.
Going in kind of knowing what it is might help.
Yeah, I think so. but like really, yeah, as you say, X and Pearl was so good. So good. I really, really
You kind of
love
assume
them.
it's going to blow you away, right?
Yeah, well, I just can't help. I couldn't help myself and not get excited for it. And yeah,
not just based on those two as well, but the director's other work.
Well,
is
yeah,
actually good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, perhaps it's probably one of my least favorite Ty West films that I've seen. Yeah, the third act, like the quote unquote mystery, and then the reveal of that was a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
The whole third act was really bizarre, actually. Like Maxine basically does nothing.
Yeah. It loses a lot of tension once Kevin Bacon's no longer in it, definitely.
Yeah.
And he was one of the strongest bits of the movie for me.
I always thought they were going to bring back the priest's father, but I don't think they did it very well. Like they tease him throughout, really, but especially in X, obviously, because
Yeah.
Of the
It seems a bit
direct.
weird and rushed and like a
Yeah.
poorly executed version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
there is a
Yeah.
bit of that energy about it, actually. Yeah, so just weird. And I remember us texting back and forth about it, going, "Oh my god, I'm going to be back in the country just as this comes out. It's going to be great. We can go and see it."
Yeah.
So I think in those respects, perhaps it's disappointing because we were hyping it so much too. Perhaps, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's not shot badly. Obviously, it's quite
Yeah.
well.
I mean,
put
if I was
together, but-
approaching the question of most disappointing by most hyped by me and not to the level, then yeah, it would have probably been that. Yeah. But because it was a good movie, I didn't feel like
it's emotive. I think it's an emotive one for me.
Yeah.
Don't know about you, Dave. More emotive than quality.
Yes, it is. Like, I mean, I can't help but react like kind of strongly to my expectations based on the first two, and yeah, I can like understand objectively that it's a well-made film, very competently made, and like there's like that's obviously some like thematic resonance, and I love the Hollywood setting as well. Thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
But it just it didn't quite connect with me personally on the first watch like those other two did. And yeah, like I said, if I watched it again, I think knowing what it is, I might be able to appreciate it much more for what it is instead of what I wanted it to be.
I think there might be a bit of an over-reliance on 80s culture within it as well, and just the 80s. I think the 80s...
And it doesn't really do anything new with that either, does it?
Yeah, and I think it's starting to get a bit tired. I think the 80s, the whole doing things in the 80s is getting a bit tired, and we'll see a resurgence of 60s, 70s, and
I'd
maybe
love
some
more 70s
nostalgia for
stuff,
90s and 2000s
I bet it'd be
as well.
the 90s, yeah.
Or 90s would be great as well. I think it suffers a lot from, the third movie syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's movies I like anyway, Terminator 3 and Alien 3. They're not as good as the previous two.
I quite like
and were
Godfather
hated
3
when they
too.
came out. Don't agree with that, but
Yeah, but it's not a bad film.
it's not bad.
No.
But
Yeah.
maybe with this franchise, I thought I was out, but they put me back in.
Yeah.
Who knows in the future? Okay, let's get to the main event, our top 5.
Yep.
So the way we're going to do this is we're all going to say our fifth in the circle, the semicircle.
It's more of a triangle. but-
Yeah, more of a triangle, whatever.
Unless
But
we're including the viewer, they can
yeah,
shout
exactly.
it out whenever
You're
they-
involved too. You've
Whenever
gotta
there's a
let us-
dead air, they can
How about
shout
you
it
let
out.
us know your top 5 in the comments?
Hell
and
yeah.
You can tell us how bloody wrong we were.
Especially if you've got Terrifier in there, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go first on this one. I'm not listening to you. And this one might be a bit I'm still not decided on what's gonna go fifth or fourth here.
You did
But-
just formulate this before the podcast.
I did.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's fresh. It's raw. Then it's
it's
real.
raw. It's real. It's raw.
uncut,
It's
yeah.
here. And I'm gonna put fifth place. I'm gonna put A Quiet Place Day One because I really
Ooh,
enjoyed that.
interesting.
I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that film.
It was much better than I thought it was going to be. To be honest.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed.
I still think it's the weakest of the three, personally.
No, I disagree. Actually, I like. Okay, so this is the thing about me. I like origins to stories. I love the first like superhero film. So like my favorite one is like Spider-Man 1, Captain America, like
Captain America 1
yeah,
over
I
the
love that
other
shit.
ones.
I love that. I
Okay,
love an origin
fine.
story. It's just a thing of mine. I just enjoy seeing the hero become the hero, or the thing happen. I love disaster movies, and I love seeing the before, and I love seeing the after.
I will say, in the clarification of, the end of the world scenarios, I think it's a lot more entertaining to see it unfold than the world after.
Yeah.
So in that particular, yeah, I can agree with that.
So
for that.
I just have a real soft spot for disaster movies, and I liked Quiet Place anyway. But I just actually, it took me by surprise. I think because I didn't have much expectation for this film, so it kind of took me by surprise. I like the idea of that she was already dying, Like it doesn't really matter to her. She's dying anyway. All she wants is a pizza and to go. And the emotive part behind wanting to go and see her dad, like the bar he used to play music in and stuff. I'm like, yeah,
and you get the awesome cat all the way through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get this cool and this companionship between that guy and her, and he's a bit weak, and she's kind
The
of
weird
cool.
follower man.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't know what he's
Whoa,
doing.
whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Don't be
So
besmirching
that
Eddie.
that subway thing was good as well, where the monster can't get in the water, and they go down the subway. There's some really
me saying
solid stuff.
I think it's the weakest doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad film. I think it's got a lot of strengths.
I
just
actually
thought the first Quiet Place was definitely the king. That was great.
That was solid and original, definitely. That does. I mean, that one shocks. That opening scene is a shocker, right? That's like in a good way.
Yeah. And it's the first one to bring this inventive premise along with it, right? About noise being a factor.
I didn't have much expectation, and I went out having been thoroughly entertained. Now, for me, the issue is what that might replace in that top 5. And I think that's what we're going to come to later on.
I'm looking forward to that.
What does that omit? So on that, let's move over to Dave. What's your 5th place?
Well, my 5th place shuffled around almost daily. I've been tweaking this for about a week.
Yeah. 5th is quite possibly the hardest one to choose because it's always a movie that you don't absolutely love it, like the first 3 at least. But so there's a rivalry of 8 out of 10s there.
So what actually ended up on my list was actually another franchise film, but this time Alien Romulus.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah.
Just about made
Okay,
it.
cool.
I was a big fan of the director anyway, and I was pretty excited for it. I definitely think it's the best Alien film since Aliens. I think that's pretty irrefutable.
I'd refute it, but
well, really,
I think Alien 3 is great, underrated.
Which is the one
It's
that has the
definitely
guy from CSI in, because that was a good one.
what?
I'm no CSI expert,
Which
so
guy?
I don't.
Oh, that's the 4th
Warwick.
one. Yeah,
that's great.
I like
That was-
Resurrection
I
as well.
like Resurrection.
But Romulus is better than that.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely better than Covenant and Prometheus, which I don't even think are good, personally.
They're fine. Like Covenant, I like Covenant. more
Don't
than
like Prometheus.
Yeah,
Not a
it
fan.
sucks ass.
Great-
AVP's pretty good.
Oh, I love AVP, actually. But it's also not as good as Alien Romulus. Yeah. So,
A great performance from David Johnson. Best use of the face huggers in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
No question.
it holds the tension really well throughout the movie.
Yeah. Amazing practical effects. Amazing final act. Almost like a 4th act with the Offspring. That was such an amazing experience in the cinema.
It takes something I don't like about the 4th one and makes me like it because it's executed so well and the design of the creature is so good.
It's interesting that there are some people out there who hated that final bit of the film, but I loved it.
It was
I
brilliant.
thought it was great.
And to see it in the cinema was such an
it was
experience.
special.
I kind of wish I had seen it. I think I was ill that day, wasn't I, or something, and I missed it.
Yeah.
we went
I
to
wish
see
I had
that,
seen it in the cinema. Yeah.
I think overall, good fan service, and they were paying homage to things I wasn't expecting, like the black goo
Yeah.
from Prometheus and Covenant. I wasn't expecting. I think they went a bit too far with Ian Holm and
Yeah.
they
I mean,
get away
that would
from
be
Moby
my
Ridge.
reason. It's an honorable mention for me, not as part of my list, because it's like a mixed bag, like pick and mix bag of all of the other movies in the franchise. And although it is good as a whole, it doesn't bring a lot of original ideas to the table.
The face hugger thing. Honestly, that's enough.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
is more original.
Not
than
to crack
half
my
of-
top 5.
half
But
of
there
the
is only
franchise.
about 3 minutes
No,
of
it's like a
of
whole sequence
using that
and
to its best.
the Offspring, which is I guess it's not a new.
That's definitely
idea.
not a new thing. But it's done well this time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, then. Mike, what's number 5?
For me, it's Lowlifes, which I love.
Ooh,
Didn't
Yeah.
see. Didn't
honorable mention
Yeah.
for me.
This-
So close to being. Number
Yeah,
5.
I love this movie.
Yeah, okay.
see. You talk about it. I'll
It's
Google it. Low lights.
It's a slasher film with a twist that I'm not going to spoil. 2 twists, actually. 2 of the best, most well executed twists in horror I've seen in a long time. It's bloody. It's really fun. It plays with the dynamics of like your usual characters in slashers. It's very dark. It's got a very dark ending, which always appeals to me. I think it's. I mean, actually, I'd say of my top 5, I don't think it's the best one. Obviously, I think it's the 5th best one. but I think it's the most fun. It might be the most fun movie I've watched this
So
year.
all I got
Yeah.
here is the survival instincts of a road tripping family put to the test when they have no other choice but to stay the night at a remote homestead.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's the setup.
And that's enough
Which
for me
sounds-
to watch it.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah,
That's
and,
all you need to know.
again,
Okay.
it sounds like the setup to 1,000 movies, but it does so much more than that, and it's very fun.
Cool.
Recommended.
All right. Let's stick with you, Mike, and let's go to your number 4.
Fair enough. My number 4 is Vermines, or Infested,
Let me Google.
which
Just
is
like maybe you out
Yeah.
there watching or listening. Google.
which is one of 2 spider horrors.
And
this
how do I
year.
spell this?
Just
Type in Infested 2024,
Oh, no, I
which is
want
the
the-
English title. Well, it's French for infested, I presume.
Let me just.
vermin, probably, isn't it?
Yeah. maybe.
Anyway,
Do you call spiders vermin? Maybe. But yeah, it's a French movie where they're in a tower block, the equivalent of like council housing, I guess, in France. And there's like this spider there's a guy that collects spiders, and he buys this spider from some dodgy guy that gets spiders on the black market. Spider gets loose, spider reproduces, spiders get bigger and bigger. It's one of the tensest, I'd possibly say the tensest, scariest movie of this year, I'd say.
Yeah, especially that hallway sequence.
Yeah,
It's
where
awesome.
they're kind of inching along this hallway and there's horrible, horrible spiders. The small spiders are scary, the big spiders are scary. All of the spiders, I'm not really an arachnophobia person, but like if my sister watched this, she'd probably have a meltdown.
Mental breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like spiders and you want to be scared in a horror movie, then this is the movie for you. It might be the scariest spider movie there is.
sounds better than the other one that came out too. by the
Yeah.
looks of it. Yeah.
I love that one as well.
I like
Okay.
Sting
It's
also,
got a
yeah.
bit more of like a comedy
campy kind of
flair
thing,
to
yeah.
it, and I'd say that's almost as good as this one,
Cool.
but it's
All
not
right.
it's not good enough to crack my top.
So yeah, that's
five.
all I got. Residents of a rundown French apartment building battle against an army of deadly, rapidly reproducing spiders.
Yeah,
Sounds
correct.
good. I'll
very
also
good.
put it on my list.
Love that one. Think it's on Prime.
Okay, Dave, number 4 for you.
One we've talked about recently, Smile 2.
Ah,
Ah,
cool.
okay.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
Loved it. Like, really.
I was so this was my number 5 before I watched something very recently, so it just got pushed out.
Oh,
But I
right,
did love
okay,
Smile
yeah.
2.
Yeah. Like, it really blew away my expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said before, like, beautiful, like, just gorgeously shot. One of the best performances of the year from Naomi Scott.
Yep.
Like, really one of the best. Like, top 5 easy. A great escalation of everything introduced in the first film. Like, it was almost like an iteration and escalation of basically every single thing.
I think they one up themselves in every
Yeah,
feasible way
yeah.
with that sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, and finally, like some of the like memorable set pieces, like especially with the dancers going through.
Yep,
her
that
Yeah.
was great.
I think it's got 2 of the most iconic horror scenes in all the movies released this year.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah,
ending and the hallway group of people slowly. Yeah.
it hasn't
Brilliant.
quite got in my top 5, but that is more so in a way because it's so recent that I'm struggling to place
Categorise
it
it.
and categorize it as of yet. It might well, if we'd have done this a month later,
Yeah.
might well have made it in, but at this moment in time, it hasn't. However, I still think it is a fantastic film. And I think, yeah, some of those sequences, like you say, in the hotel, in her house, and the dancing stuff, I think the premise is good. If I have to say one thing, I think maybe some of it is a bit samey in the middle there. But that came off the back of me watching the first one the same day as I saw the second one for the first time.
Yeah. And it might be you getting kind of used to the tropes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But that opening, that cold opening is fantastic. That's a really good opening sequence to the film. And I think, yeah, Sky Riley, the character, is one that I would have loved to have seen get a bit more like a returner, if that would ever be possible. But
Yeah,
I'd love
yeah,
to see that.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that character.
Or just that as like
be
a setup
developed.
for like a horror main character or horror world, a world that horror can be inserted into. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting when you put someone as a famous person in that movie. I think I said it in the review anyway, but yeah, I think it's very unique and interesting where the first one wasn't necessarily unique and interesting in the setup that it had.
Yeah, for number 4 then, which just recently got to number 4 because on my page here it still says number 5, but I put
Right.
basically-
2 number 5s and no number 4.
So this is a number 4 now. Is Late Night with the Devil. Or Late Night with the
yeah.
Devil, yeah. That I really, really love this film. It speaks to my experimental side with the way the filmmaking is done. It has the benefit of being one of the last films I saw at one of my favourite cinemas in Australia, in Melbourne, at the Nova. Shout out to the Nova Cinema over there. And they put on a lot of artsy type films, a lot of stuff that doesn't get mainstream attention. I went with my old housemate from over there, and he doesn't really do horror films, so it was nice to get him out and see a horror film too. And just the whole thing has such... You can just go back to it and pick out little new things in it. And I think it's exciting. You'll find something new within it every time you watch it. Another way to look at it. I think it's really nice, short, sweet. It goes back into like this sort of 70s American presenter culture and the ratings and stuff. And I love all of that. Liking wrestling, ratings are everything back in the day. So it speaks to a lot of my likes. And
Yeah. It's an on mem for me, but I do love it, and I wish there was more movies that did this kind of subgenre of horror, where it's like Ghost Watch, where it's like recorded.
It's a fun alternative take on found footage, right? Full disclosure, by the way, this is my number 3.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, nice. So should we go straight to your number 3? Since this is the last one. Let's go to your number 3, Dave.
Yeah, so my number 3, Late Night with the Devil.
Cool.
Yeah, loved the alternative take on found footage. As you say, it reminded me of Ghost Watch and also the live episode of Inside Number 9.
Yep,
No, it's not quite the same because it wasn't actually broadcast live. But, in place of that, you get like the 70s talk show setting, which I think is worth it. I also think that like the Halloween vibes are really strong in that one. It's set on Halloween night, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it really feels like you're tuning in on like a late night Halloween, TV show, and it feels great to watch
it's very believable. The set design
cozy,
and the kind of costuming and stuff is all... I mean, I wasn't alive then, but it all looks pretty spot on to me. So,
and also, it was really great to see David Dastmalchian in a leading role.
Yeah,
because
I think everybody's kind of loved him ever since he popped up in Dark Knight and those kind of things.
Every single time, you're like, oh, it's that guy from Dark Knight. Yeah, a great character actor.
Great.
I
in the
always
Suicide
recognise his
Squad
face.
as well.
His face is always so recognisable.
Very distinctive. Yeah.
Mike, how about you go next? And what's number 3?
For number 3 for me is Red Rooms, which I recommended to you both. I don't know whether you watched it.
Let me Google it.
You did not.
I also didn't get time.
Sorry,
to
no time in my life.
Well, I can describe it to you.
This guy's got chimneys to fix, and I've got like 3 jobs.
Yeah, well, all I've got to do is watch movies. So. But yeah, it's a French Canadian movie, a Quebecian or Quebecese or whatever it is.
Don't be
movie.
racist.
How is that racist? Whoa, sorry, Quebec.
God, sorry, Queps. What? God, you disgust me.
Yeah, sorry, Creps. So basically, it's about. It starts off with this court case.
You could have helped yourself because it's in Montreal. It was shot in Montreal, so it was even easier than saying Quebec.
Montreal's in Quebec.
It is in Quebec, but there's also a place called Quebec as well, isn't there? As well as it being a state.
I don't know. I didn't know it was from Montreal. Anyway, so it's this court case for this
Although, sorry, it says principal photography took place in Montreal, so who knows if that's the same thing?
You're just derailing him.
So sorry.
False information.
Sorry, carry on.
This is a man that doesn't understand what a movie is.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're all documentaries.
Hostel was shot in Czech Republic. Doesn't mean it's a Czech Republic movie, does it?
Shush now.
So it's got really long, brilliant tracking shots at the start as they're doing this court case for this alleged murderer of 3 underage girls, and he's like tortured them and decapitated them and sexually abused them and stuff on the internet, on the dark web, streamed. And then we slowly come around to this woman that's staring intently at him, and it's all about her, basically. Like, she's kind of morbidly fascinated with this man, and she meets this other woman that's kind of in love with this man, and it's about them basically like bucking the trend of being horrified by these things and going down worse and worse avenues in terms of the things that they see, like seeking out these videos and stuff that were recorded and released on the internet. And yeah, the direction on this is amazing. The acting is very, very good. It's got this kind of foreboding tone throughout. I recommend it highly. I think it's great.
It sounds really good. I really want to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, add it on your list, everyone.
Yeah, I will.
Let's
And
get
I
it
think
on
that's
your
probably
list.
one of the most unknown ones I'm
Yeah.
going to talk about. Yeah.
Cool. Now I've got this for number 3. However, we'll skim over it a little bit because I feel like it's going to come back up in your guys a bit higher. I really struggled with the top 3 to figure out a rightful top 3, but
Right,
I'm going to
okay.
put The Substance at number 3.
Yeah. That was the one I was guessing was going to be in all of ours. At
Yeah, so I reckon it
some
might
way.
well be, and it was going to be higher in some of yours. So
Maybe we can come back to
we'll
it.
come back to it, but I think from my perspective, I really did enjoy it. The 3 halves, 3 halves, yeah, 3 whatever, 3/3, and it was a really, really good film that takes you on a fantastic ride. And I think there's a lot to say about our culture within it, how we stand as a society with older women and sexualizing people, and bringing back Demi Moore and stuff is really cool in that prominent role. And it's kind of given her a big old resurgence, hasn't it, in Hollywood?
But it's basically it's a powerhouse. The entire movie. I mean, it's well acted. It's well directed. It's well written. I love every single one. It builds to an
And on
amazing
that-
crescendo.
And on that, we'll come back to it.
Yeah,
Okay,
fair
so
enough.
we're going to go to number 2. So, Dave, number 2.
Well, I think we're gonna have to come back to my number 2 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got-
Substance?
No.
Oh, okay.
well,
number
the
2.
substance is number 2 for me.
Okay, well,
So-
now's your chance to cut. Don't let me cut you off again. Go for it.
Right, so fair enough. I mean, as I say, there's a reason that this movie is. I looked into Letterboxd and IMDb, and it's the top rated on both of those. It is a brilliant movie. There's no questioning that. I was toying with the idea of putting it number 1. Strong on all counts. I'll definitely want to watch it again. I don't think. Well, in terms of cinema watches, it was definitely the best one I watched. I don't think I've had so much fun watching a movie as I had watching that last segment in a long while. It's
I
brilliant.
think Malignant was the last one for me that
Yeah, that's a
got
lot of
me
fun
to,
as well.
to go laugh out loud and stuff like this.
Yeah.
It was like crazy.
Like the ludicrous extremes.
and it's not always
that it
laugh out
takes.
loud. I understand it's actually a lot darker than that, but
Yeah.
also there is this.
It's the catharsis of reaching that point in the story, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the practical effects are amazing as well. Like I think when we walked out of it, and probably on the review afterwards, I was comparing it to Society, which is like right up there in the what's it called with the 4 faces. That
Yeah.
with on the mountain, you know.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore of like
not
visual
not the dog
practical
from
effects.
from Harry Potter. It was
Fluffy.
Fluffy. Yeah.
There's only 3 heads.
Oh, yeah,
there,
I know.
Cerberus. Yeah, but yeah, I can't sing its praises
Cool.
high enough.
All
Love
right. So number 2 for me, I've put Speak No Evil.
it. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I really
Have you still not
thoroughly
seen the
enjoyed it.
original?
I still haven't. No,
Right, okay.
no. But this is obviously the one brought out this year with James McAvoy.
Yep. That was another one I was toying with for number 5.
Yeah.
The incredible performance.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that was toying on the outskirts of yours, and that's gone like right up on mine. I mean, for me, I guess it was that I kind of saw right away where he was going with it, and this idea of these toxic masculinity figures in our society, and who they are picking up along the way, and I think it has a very, very important message to tell male youth of today. Like,
Yep.
what is who should you look up to? What sort of male figures are out there? Because on the one hand, this guy over here, he's a horrible bloke. I can't think of his name right now. What's his name?
McAvoy.
No, the
character name.
the toxic guy, the guy in real
Oh,
life.
Andrew Tate. Yeah.
Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate, awful human being, terrible human being, but then he also advocates for like male mental health and like you should be healthy, you should eat healthy and stuff. And you get those good things within what he is encompassing as something terrible. And he gains a lot of just normal guys with him. And that's sort of how I saw James McAvoy going into that role. And then on the other side, you kind of have a base of people sort of moving past men, and it's becoming more like the sort of how we look at gender is completely changing on the left. So there's a lot of traditional men who are completely disenfranchised. Male mental health epidemic is awful. There's a lot of suicide. There's so much going wrong. So I found that this film to me spoke a lot about this, and I think it is important, and I think we should be able to talk about
Yeah,
male
it's
mental
very,
health a lot
very
more
relevant to
than
the
we do.
times we live in, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a more personal on that one, but yeah, that's why it gets number 2.
Yeah. Incredibly strong movie.
Yeah.
I respected of all picks so far.
Maybe that's about to change because Dave's about to give a number 2.
Well, yeah, but just to add
Go
to
on.
that, I think I still agree with what I said on the review we said for Speak No Evil, where I think this might actually be better than the original.
I think
Yes.
so.
And that
I think so.
very rarely happens to me. It has to be something
Yeah.
really good.
It's
quite
definitely
special.
Definitely the one
Yeah.
I'll rewatch sooner than the original.
And maybe
Yeah,
that's a
I
British
think so.
bias thing too. That could always
Or
be
an English language bias.
Yeah, an
perhaps.
English language
Yeah.
bias.
The original
Yeah.
one's in English, isn't it? Don't they speak in English?
I don't think they do. They wouldn't have remade
Anyway,
it if they were
Dave.
speaking in
Anyway.
Number
English.
2.
Yeah.
Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
And number 2?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I expected that.
Shouldn't have
Yeah.
been on the list in the first place. But...
Whoa. Oh, you've been saving it for your number 1, have you, Mike?
oh, well, no.
Okay, well, why don't we simultaneously then do your number 2 and my number 1,
Sounds
which
good.
is Terrifier 3. So, yeah, takes my top spot, takes runners up for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll try and be reserved and not hate. So.
Go for it.
Okay. So much fun at this. Yeah. Just so much fun to watch. Definitely one of my favorite cinema experiences of the year. Slightly pipped out by my number 1 spot, but it's an experience at the cinema I'll never ever forget. It took me right back to the 80s. It's like my first actual authentic experience of what that would have been like.
Yep.
In a way, it was the first time I actually got what the appeal of that was. And like what it would have been like to actually be a fan of Friday the 13th back in the 80s when the films.
How it could create kind of like a movement, like an inspiration for this whole new genre of slashers. and
Because
so on.
like
Yeah.
it exists beyond like the credits of the film. You step out and people are talking about their favorite kills. Like the atmosphere is electric, and I'll never ever forget it for the rest of my life. I think that they've got incrementally better. I mean, it's like the only franchise I can think of that does that, which is fascinating, and it's very exciting to be a part of that. I think that seeing like the improvement with each iteration is really fun to follow, and I do think that this is the first time where he's, for me, like perfected the balance of art and plot as well, because you know it was nothing but art in the first one, and there was maybe a bit too much plot in the second one.
Yep.
Potentially.
Do agree.
This one had
Yeah.
the best balance and a much more justifiable runtime, in my opinion. Amazing effects, obviously.
Yeah, it's probably got some of the best kills I've seen this year. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
not
so
a huge
many-
amount of slashes
so
these days, but
many,
yeah,
like, to talk about, yeah.
the soaring in half lengthways that we've already seen kind of in Bone Tomahawk and stuff.
Yeah.
It's great, and the scene in the bar where he's Santa is one of the best horror scenes of the year as well.
Definitely, yeah, top 5 scene for sure. Yeah, my favorite kill is the chainsaw in the shower, though.
That's
Yeah,
great. That
yeah,
is so
yeah.
good.
Yeah. How about you, Joe?
Oh man, well, just in general, I love that scene with the Santa Claus. That's just phenomenal. That's just like you can tell they were having so much fun with that. And this film overall, for me, why it gets the top spot is because not only that cinema experience, but it was the sort of adrenaline and how much fun I had watching it and then coming out of the cinema. The last time I had such adrenaline coming out of the cinema was seeing Top Gun Maverick. Like that, I just like could not settle after it. It was just. This film
It's like a
took me
raw,
places.
pulse-pounding experience.
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
and that's
thing.
what I think. Sometimes when we watch documentaries, especially when we do our retrospective stuff, it's always like, God, when this came out, everyone was like going crazy. There was people on the floor. You know?
Yeah.
And this is kind of what's happening before our eyes, just in real time. Like we're actually part of this now, and we'd be the people in the future going on those documentaries, going, "Yeah, you should have been there, man, for this," because
Yeah,
we were
I mean,
developing
it's probably
this thing.
of all the movies released this year, horror movies anyway. This is probably going to be the one that's talked about most in 20 years, I'd imagine. This and Alien.
And
yeah.
look, art has become like one of my absolute favorite slasher villains. If I'm going on emotional response over what maybe I should put him in, like say a top 10 list or something, Art's like right up there with me right now with Michael Myers. Like I just love the guy.
Hell yeah.
Art's my boy now,
Fuck
and I just love him. Like God, he's so good. And you can put him in these situations. He's got you can play around. You can create some levity with him, and then he can be a childlike figure. And then the next shot, He is like bludgeoning someone to death in the most horrific way you could ever imagine. He sets it up. He breaks all the rules. He uses guns, and it's like, shit, this guy uses guns. He's breaking all the rules, and Chris Jericho's in it. Like, and seeing that sort of Chris Jericho is fantastic, but he is kind of B-list, right, when it comes to cinema stuff. But that's what the beauty of horror is. Sometimes that B-list stuff, like you get these fringe sort of mainstream celebrities coming in.
Yeah,
and it's just, I love it. And I also love like the Sienna Shaw character as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how I so want her to absolutely destroy Art in the end, that she gets some comeuppance for everything she's been through. He gets some comeuppance for everything he's done to her. So I want to see that, and like I felt like I need to see it in this one, just gone, Terrifier 3. But I enjoyed the way they've ended it, because I think it's going to go off the rails in the next one. And I hope they just turn it up to 11. Like, I hope they do some weird shit, like send it to hell, put it in Easter. Let's send them back to biblical times, and Art is literally inside the rock with
Jesus.
With Jesus, and that's the reason like he comes back, because of Art. He's actually Jesus in this, and like, come on, just send me there.
Something wild
Just
like that.
I wanted to fight Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, that sounded very Evil Dead 3 to me. Yeah.
So just do that shit, and I want to see it. And thank you, Terrifier 3, for getting number 1 for me, because Damien Leone's just got me on this one, and the cast and crew, and the fact it was on $2 million budget. It has all those old school flavors of what horror could and should be in some respects. So good on you guys. Terrifier 3, number 1. Mike, what's yours? Number 1.
My number 1 is I Saw the TV Glow.
No,
Did not see.
Really?
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I think you could
Google it.
You could possibly argue that it's horror adjacent rather than full horror.
No, it feels like it belongs.
But it's horror. It's horror tone towards the end.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love this movie. The
Hold on, Fred Durst is in this.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's no Limp Bizkit in it though. There's no music from him.
They couldn't make it more 90s though. If they
it's extreme. Like the 90s setting is amazing. The soundtrack is great. I love the direction. The direction is beautiful throughout. The whole thing with the pink opaque and this kind of like TV show and stuff, and how nostalgia changes us, and then also the themes of like the world isn't real, or I'm not the person that I'm presenting myself as, and whether to take the plunge and change and move on or not. It's like incredibly well done. It's amazing. I think I love it.
Yeah, it's very clever, like how that particular theme, because it's
presented in such a good way.
There's a trans reading of it, right? But it is
because the director is. But I think it's
more universal to the human experience.
Yeah, because I felt a lot of that.
Yeah.
As a white man of straight gender. Yeah, I also like
it
appeals to everybody.
The 90s saying of it, and like the TV show, like of course reminded me of Goosebumps, and there's a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in it as well.
It's kind of like recalling that with the obsession with the TV show and so on.
The like the bands, and like the saying was like the bronze from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. I just absolutely love it. Like I've rewatched this movie, and I don't usually do that.
Oh wow!
I think it's just. Great. It seems so comfortable to me to watch.
So all I've got here is a teenager just trying to make it through life in the suburbs is introduced by a classmate to a mysterious late-night TV show.
Yep.
I like it. Lovely. And again, that is going to go on my list.
Yeah, recommended to the highest.
And we'll get there. So without further ado, Dave, this is the final top 1. What is your number 1?
Well, the most unshocking pick of the night is The Substance.
What?
Number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it lived up to the hype and then some for me.
Yep.
Just narrowly beat out Terrifier 3 in both my rankings and cinema experience. So well shot, like the use of camera, like the fisheye lens on Dennis Quaid. His performance was amazing.
The prawns or whatever.
So disgusting.
Despicable, yeah.
Such a strong voice from the writer-director. I do like it quite a lot normally when the director's also right. Even if I don't like the film, you at least get the feeling that there's a voice there that they're trying.
That's exactly what they they wanted, right?
Yeah.
They're presented to you. Yeah.
I literally couldn't believe what I was seeing on screen at the end. That whole like final sequence was jaw dropping to me. In like, I couldn't believe that this was. Yeah, okay. I know that Terrifier 3 did subsequently break into the mainstream as well, but like The Substance got a lot of buzz, right? It's still getting Oscar buzz.
Yeah.
And for what happens in the final sequence that happened in a film that's mentioned in the same sentence as Oscar is bananas to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Insane.
really. I mean, so, Demi Moore and Quali, like easily two of the best performances of the year. A lot of the so I've like read some kind of the discourse about the film after we did our review, which is kind of like fresh off seeing it, and it's interesting as well. Like some of the takes that people have, like I've heard like like one guy on YouTube from Red Letter Media, they were talking about how the camera feels almost sarcastic, like the way that they over sexualize Margaret Qualley.
Yeah,
like it almost
kind
feels,
of being like ironic.
it almost
right?
feels, it almost feels like it's a joke.
Yeah,
like it's unintentional.
It's kind of making you complicit as well, right? It's kind of making you.
Well, yeah, if you think it is from a female director and writer,
this is an interesting thing as well, because then I saw someone else who another YouTuber who was a woman. I'll have to share the name later because I don't recall now off the top of my head. But she said that the camera was not the male gaze at all; it was the female gaze, and it's the way that women look at themselves now.
Interesting.
Because of society, and that was such a brilliant take, and I wish I could remember the name of who it
That's
was.
an interesting take.
Really interesting.
It is interesting take.
Yeah.
I think they could simultaneously be true.
Yeah.
Because it could be how women see themselves. I mean, definitely. And I think it could also be a very hyper-sexualized version of the male gaze. Like, they're just perverted to the...
But I don't think
to absurdity.
I don't think it's not necessarily exclusive.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Well,
a lot of what
yeah.
society tells you in the way to view women in a sexual manner doesn't necessarily like constrict itself to gender lines, right? Like, everybody, if they're going to sexualize someone, is going to look at the same parts purely because they've been told by the society they live in and the media that they consume that these are the sexualized parts. So,
all right, there we go. That's our rundown.
I love that we've got 3 different top ones.
Yes, very different.
Yeah.
Very different. I didn't expect that. I almost expected you both to have The Substance number 1 there. And I wasn't sure where Terrifier might end up on yours, and I didn't think it would end up in yours.
You knew it wouldn't.
However, before we close out, let's do a few honourable mentions. If anyone out there wants to write and jot these down, honourable mentions, just a quick sentence and as to why it maybe didn't get in and what it is, but they're still.
Do
worth
mine
saying.
last because mine's going to be the longest. I imagine.
No, go for it now. Just say them out.
Right. Okay. I'll omit the ones that have been in your lists, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about Sting a little bit, so I'll omit that as well. So In a Violent Nature was also great this year. I didn't think it was great enough for my top 5. I think it's great as like a kind of inversion of the slasher movie. Very fun. Highly recommended. Lisa Frankenstein is also great as a kind of comedy horror. I think that's a breath of fresh air in amongst the rest of the picks of this year. I think it's a lot of fun. Under Paris, I think is extremely underrated, and I'm bringing it with its whole like loathed reputation online because
Stephen King?
The last like half hour of this movie is absolutely insane, and it's so fun, and I recommend it. It's on Netflix. It's great. Blink Twice is also a lot of fun, a little bit polarizing, but I think it's a great movie.
I actually have quite a lot to say about that film.
Keep going. We'll do another one sometime.
Immaculate, I think, is great. I know Dave prefers, and a lot of people prefer The First Omen, but I think
The First Omen is
awesome.
so much better than
not.
Immaculate.
Keep going. No time.
Immaculate is better.
There's
Strange
no time.
Darling, which we've already covered,
Yeah.
also great. Heretic, which we've already covered, also great. Daddy's Head, that's on Shudder, is great. It's got like this great creature design of this, like the dead dad of the child is on this thing that's kind of shape shifting and trying to get in his life. That's great. Exhumer, which is Japanese, I think, movie about this. They're digging up this body to cremate it or move it somewhere else. I've got to get something about it.
Stop rushing him.
And it's really well directed and spooky. There's a movie called Chime, which was released as an NFT movie, which is really weird, so it's hard to get hold of, but it's really good.
Cool.
It's Kiyoshi Kurosawa, the guy that did Cure. That's also really violent and good. It's only 40 minutes.
Nice.
Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person is a very long title for a great movie, which is also a good comedy horror about a vampire that doesn't like killing people and it's trying to find, like, she doesn't want to starve to death, so she needs to find someone that wants to die. It's What's Inside, which is debatable as a horror movie, but I've seen it on a lot of horror movie lists, which is very fun when they play a game, and the game's like it's sci-fi-esque where they put these things on and they swap bodies, And because they swap bodies, they're given a certain level of freedom that they wouldn't otherwise have, and
Cool.
fun things happen. And the last one I've got is Kinds of Kindness, which some people think is a horror movie. I'm not sure that it is. But it's the
there.
new Yorgos Lanthimos
Yeah, I
movie.
still haven't seen it.
Um,
But I want to.
I also think it's very good. It's like an anthology movie, 3 parts.
Yeah.
All right,
Jesse
thank
Plemons.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right then.
Shut up.
You don't want me to go on for like hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, my go. We've got Never Let Go. It's a solid movie, but nowhere near as good and didn't make the traction of the others. I've got also Trap. It's a good romp, but it's nothing spectacular. Then the music is there for one reason only. Heretic goes in also because the disappointing third act left this one out for me, but Hugh Grant is fantastic and the first 2/3 of the film are very, very good. We've got Strange Darling. I enjoyed it a lot. I just found others a bit more exciting, and I've only seen it very recently as well. Alien, because that one was also very good. It didn't quite crack the top 5, but what a cinema experience. And we got Smile 2. It's too close to being out to put it in with the others, and that is me done. Over to you, Dave.
Okay, what just missed out?
There was like a rap. Speed. Yeah.
We can put like a backing effect to that. Yeah. Just missed out on top 5 for me was Oddity.
I know you love that one.
Yeah.
I think it's good, but it's not
Really good.
great.
Irish supernatural horror film. Feels like a Mike Flanagan film to me. Like a blind psychic sister is investigating her sister's death.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
good.
got a creepy wooden man.
Next.
Yeah. Well, Low Lifes we talked about, Heretic we talked about, Speak No Evil, Strange Darlings, and finally Long Legs, which is a crime
Nice.
thriller from Oz Perkins.
Liked it, didn't love it, but
I
Nicolas Cage is
really,
good.
really wanted
Yeah.
to like it.
You're a
more than I
massive
did.
Cage boy.
I
aren't
am a
you?
big massive
Yeah.
Cage man, and I did really like it. And I do want to rewatch it, but it just didn't make the top 5.
Yeah.
Cool. Bring it in. 2024,
Bring it in,
bitches.
2024.
Woo! All right. Okay, then, Dave, run down your top 5 like it's the charts. In number 5 this week.
Alien Romulus,
Number 4.
Smile 2,
Number 3.
Late Night with the Devil,
Number 2.
Terrifier 3,
Number 1.
The Substance.
And in Joe's top 5, it's Late Night with the Devil at number 4, in fact, because I saw them round. So let me start that again.
Freestyling.
At number 5, it's A Quiet Place, Day 1. In number 4, it's Late Night with the Devil. At 3, it's The Substance. 2, this year, is Speak No Evil. And taking the top spot of 2024 for me is Terrifier 3. Over to you, Mike. What's your top 5?
My number 5 is Low Lives. My number 4 is Verminez / Infested, depending on what title you want to go with. 3 is Red Rooms. 2 is The Substance. And 1 is I Saw the TV Glow.
Perfect. All right, guys. What a year for horror movies. I think we've summed it up pretty well. There's a lot of choice and a lot of different tastes just in this room. So tell us what your taste might well be as well. We want to hear it. Comment, like, subscribe. We'd love to hear if you hate us because of what we picked or if you love us. We don't care. Just comment. It'll be fun.
Give me those top 5.
Well,
That'd
read
be
them all.
very-
Yeah, I want to read those.
Yeah,
lists,
absolutely.
yeah.
I do want to see them.
Yeah.
And as you've just seen, because I want to make loads of work for myself, you just saw the graphics of our top 5s on the screen, so you can jot them down too.
You're putting it down that you're
Oh,
going
I'm
to do
putting
that.
it down.
yeah.
I'm going to do it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right, then. See you soon for
Bye.
the next video. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.